What's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in to the BS Show. I'm sure everyone has heard by now that One Fighting Championship has traded Ben Askren to the UFC for Demetrious Johnson. A lot of questions have been brought up about who won this trade. It's the first big trade in mixed martial arts history. This is a very good trade, in my opinion, for the UFC. I think if I were to pick a winner, it would be the UFC in this circumstance. Because Ben Askren is an undefeated fighter. He was the champion in other promotions, and he has a huge following in wrestling. That is what the UFC is gaining. What are they losing? They're losing a Demetrious Johnson who was not a big draw, who did not have a big following, and refused to fight all the big-name fighters when the UFC gave him that opportunity. I want to say, I'm not 100% for sure, but I want to say that when Demetrious Johnson headlined a pay-per-view card, the numbers were historically low. So the UFC is not losing anything. They're, in fact, probably gaining more followers and gaining more viewers by bringing Ben Askren in. According to what I've heard, Ben Askren and Dana White have had a beef with each other because Dana White said Ben Askren was a boring fighter because he's a wrestler and he would take people down and he would control them. But the good thing is Dana White immediately gets a title contender. Once again, Ben Askren is undefeated, and he is a champion in his respective promotions. So there is a whole slew of guys that Ben Askren can step right in and fight. Maybe being Khabib, maybe being Tony Ferguson. I doubt they give him a title shot immediately. They probably give him a few fights to really show his skills, and then he's off to the races. So, in other words, Ben Askren could be a future UFC champion if he really is as good as what he's been, which I'm sure he is. But let's take a step towards the One Fighting Championship. They are starting to sign big-name fighters. They've signed Eddie Alvarez to an 8-figure deal, according to him. Now they got Demetrious Johnson, and I'm sure they are going to start picking off other fighters. They're trying to get a North American base, I guess is the word to say. They're trying to gain traction over here in the United States. I believe they're big in Japan, so they're trying to gain ground over here, which it looks like they're doing. So, maybe One Fighting Championship is going to be the next big thing, or try to be the next big thing, but I think it's great. I think competition is great in sports. There always needs to be other companies and other promotions that rival each other. So let me know in the comments below what you think. If you even know who Ben Askren is, or if you don't know who Ben Askren is, if you think that he is going to do well in the UFC, and what do you think about Demetrious Johnson getting shipped out of town? I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Thank you for tuning in.